Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Liberty and watched the big screen in front of him. The emergency meeting was not going well for Earth. Around the table sat representatives from every major power in the galaxy. They all looked important and dangerous. The humans looked small next to them. The Zephyrian delegate was huge. His skin was dark red and covered in scales. When he spoke, his voice sounded like thunder. "The Zephyrian Empire declares war on the Alteran colonies," he said. "Any who stand with them will face our wrath." Jake felt his hands tighten into fists. The Alterans were peaceful people. They had blue skin and gentle eyes. They never hurt anyone. Their whole planet was like a giant garden. They made beautiful art and music. They did not have armies or weapons. They trusted the Galactic Alliance to protect them. High Admiral Vexther of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. He was even bigger than the delegate. His uniform was covered in medals and symbols of rank. "The Alterans have resources we need," he said. "They will give them to us, or we will take them by force." The other alien representatives started talking at once. The Krellian delegate, a creature that looked like a giant insect, clicked his mandibles nervously. "The Krellian hegemony will send 50 dreadnoughts to help defend the Alterans," he said. The representative from the synthetic collective was a robot with glowing blue eyes. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "We will contribute 100 warships to the defense effort," it announced. One by one, each species promised ships and weapons. The numbers were impressive. Thousands of vessels would gather to fight the Zephyrians. But everyone knew it might not be enough. The Zephyrian Empire had the biggest fleet in the galaxy. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. They had conquered dozens of worlds already. General Patricia Stone was Earth's representative at the meeting. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. When it was her turn to speak, the room became quiet. Everyone wanted to hear what the weakest species in the galaxy could offer. "Earth will provide adequate forces for the defense," she said simply. The room erupted in laughter. The Zephyrian delegate slammed his fist on the table. "Adequate forces?" He roared. "You humans have maybe a dozen ships that could fight in space. What help could you possibly give?" Even some of the allied species looked embarrassed for humanity. The Krellian delegate tried to be polite. Perhaps the humans could help with supply runs or medical support, he suggested kindly. Jake Morrison felt his face burn with anger. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 15 years. He knew what human ships could do, but orders were orders. Earth had always told its military to stay quiet about their real capabilities. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat at the communications station next to Jake. She was young but smart. She had graduated top of her class from the Space Academy. "Sir," she whispered, "should we tell them about the defense platforms?" Jake shook his head slightly. "Not yet," he said quietly. "We follow orders." General Stone remained calm as the aliens laughed at her. "Earth will do its part," she repeated. "That is all I can say for now." The meeting continued for hours. Battle plans were made. The Allied fleet would gather at the Alteran system and wait for the Zephyrian attack. Everyone agreed that the fight would be bloody. Many ships would be destroyed. Many people would die. After the meeting ended, Jake walked through the corridors of the Liberty. The ship looked old and simple compared to alien vessels. The hull was plain metal. The weapons looked basic. But Jake knew the truth. He knew what was hidden beneath the surface. Captain Steve Carter was waiting in Jake's office. Steve commanded the monitoring station at the edge of human space. His job was to watch for threats and report back to Earth Command. "The Zephyrian fleet is moving," Steve said. "Long-range sensors show over 3,000 ships heading toward Alteran space." Jake nodded grimly. 3,000 ships was a massive force, the biggest fleet humanity had ever seen. "How long until they arrive?" he asked. "72 hours," Steve replied. "The Allied fleet is already moving to intercept them." "But Jake, we both know they don't stand a chance. The Zephyrians will crush them." Jake stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, peaceful people were about to die because stronger beings wanted their resources. It was an old story. It had happened on Earth many times throughout history. But this time was different. This time, humanity was not helpless. "Have you received any special orders?" Steve asked carefully. Jake smiled for the first time all day. "Dr. Helen Murphy is preparing something called Project Prometheus," he said. "Earth Command wants us to be ready for anything." Steve raised his eyebrows. He had heard rumors about secret human projects, stories about weapons and defenses that were hidden from alien eyes. "Are we finally going to show them what we can really do?" "Maybe," Jake said. "The Zephyrians think they can bully anyone they want. The galaxy thinks humans are weak and helpless. Maybe it's time they learned the truth." Amy Rodriguez appeared in the doorway. Her face was excited but worried. "Sir, we just received a coded message from Earth Command. All human ships are to proceed to classified positions and await further orders." Jake felt his heart beat faster. After decades of hiding, humanity was finally ready to reveal its true strength. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the quietest person in the room was also the most dangerous. The Zephyrian Empire thought they were about to win an easy victory. They had no idea what was coming for them. Admiral Vexter stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Devourer. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of over 3,000 Zephyrian warships. The largest fleet in galactic history was under his command. Victory would be swift and total. The Alteran homeworld hung in space ahead of them like a blue-green jewel. No defenses protected it. No orbital platforms or minefields blocked their path. The peaceful inhabitants had built a beautiful world full of gardens and art galleries. Soon it would belong to the Zephyrian Empire. "Report on enemy forces," Vexter commanded. His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Kextar, studied his instruments. "Sir, we detect approximately 800 Allied vessels in defensive positions around the planet. The largest concentration appears to be Krellian and synthetic ships." Vexter laughed. 800 ships against 3,000. The aliens must be desperate. "What about human forces?" he asked mockingly. Kextar looked puzzled at his readings. "Sir, we only detect 12 human vessels. They appear to be standard frigates and destroyers. Nothing that could threaten our fleet." "Pathetic," Vexter said. "The humans send their children to fight a war. We will crush them first as an example to the others." On the bridge of the UES Liberty, Commander Jake Morrison watched the Zephyrian fleet approach. The enemy ships were massive and bristling with weapons. Each one was bigger than anything in the human fleet. But Jake was not worried. He was waiting for orders from Earth Command. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez monitored communications from the Allied fleet. "Sir, the Krellian Admiral is requesting our battle plans. He wants to know where we will position our ships." Jake smiled. "Tell him we will handle the northern sector," he said. "And Amy, send the coded message to Earth Command. Tell them the Zephyrians have arrived." Light years away, Captain Lisa Bennett sat in the command center of Defense Platform Alpha. The platform was hidden in an asteroid field where no alien had ever looked. Around her, dozens of technicians prepared weapons that had been secret for 30 years. "Captain," her weapons officer called out, "we have authorization from Earth Command. Project Prometheus is now active." Lisa felt her pulse quicken. "Begin." "Phase 1, she ordered. "Drop the cloaking fields." Throughout the Alteran system, space itself began to shiver. What had appeared to be empty void suddenly filled with massive structures. Battle stations the size of small moons materialized from nothing. Weapons platforms that dwarfed any ship ever built appeared around the planet. On the Devourer, alarms began screaming. Kekstar stared at his instruments in disbelief. "Sir, we are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Unknown structures are appearing everywhere." Vexter pushed his officer aside and looked at the displays. Himself. Dozens of enormous installations had simply appeared from nowhere. Each one was larger than his flagship. "Impossible," he whispered. "Where did they come from?" Jake Morrison received a message on his private channel. "All units, this is Earth. Command, you are authorized to reveal human defensive capabilities. Show them what we built while they were not watching." The largest of the human battle stations, Defense Platform Alpha, turned its weapons toward the Zephyrian fleet. Captain Bennett had trained for this moment her entire career. "Target the leading edge of their formation," she ordered. "Fire when ready." The first human railgun salvo crossed the distance between the platform and the enemy fleet in seconds. The projectiles were simple chunks of metal, but they traveled at a significant fraction of the speed of light. When they hit the Zephyrian ships, the results were devastating. Admiral Vexter watched in horror as the front rank of his fleet simply disappeared. 24 of his most powerful dreadnoughts were there one moment and gone the next. No explosions. No debris. Just empty space where his ships had been. "What kind of weapons are those?" Kekstar asked in a shaking voice. Before Vexter could answer, another salvo arrived. This time, 48 ships vanished into atoms. The human weapons punched through Zephyrian energy shields like they were made of paper. The kinetic energy released by each impact was greater than the explosion of a small stardot in the Allied fleet. Alien commanders watched their sensors in amazement. The Krellian admiral contacted Jake Morrison directly. "Commander, what is happening? Where did those installations come from?" Jake kept his voice calm. "Those are Earth's defensive systems," he said. "We have been building them for quite some time." The synthetic collective representative's voice crackled over the radio. "Our analysis indicates that human kinetic weapons operate on principles we do not understand. The energy output is beyond our current technology." Another wave of railgun. Fire reached the Zephyrian fleet. This time, Vexter ordered his ships to scatter and take evasive action. But the human targeting systems were too precise. No matter how his ships moved, the projectiles found their targets. Colonel Ryan Davis commanded the human Marines aboard the Liberty. He watched the battle on his tactical display and shook his head in amazement. "Sir, we have reports that Zephyrian crews are abandoning their ships. They are launching escape pods and fleeing the battlefield." Jake was not surprised. The Zephyrian Empire had built their reputation on fear and overwhelming force. They had never faced an enemy that could simply erase their ships from existence. Their weapons relied on energy shields and advanced armor. But you could not shield against a chunk of metal traveling at relativistic speeds. Admiral Vexter realized that his fleet was being systematically destroyed. In less than 10 minutes, he had lost over 200 ships. The humans had not even used their full capabilities yet. Only one of their battle stations was firing. "Send a message to all ships," he ordered desperately. "Full retreat. Emergency jump to hyperspace." But as his ships tried to flee, they discovered another surprise. The human platforms were generating some kind of field that prevented faster-than-light travel. The Zephyrian fleet was trapped in normal space with weapons that could kill them. From halfway across the solar system, Captain Bennett watched the enemy fleet try to escape and smiled grimly. "Target their engines," she ordered. "Disable them, but do not destroy them completely. Earth Command wants prisoners for questioning." The precision of the human weapons was terrifying. Railgun projectiles struck specific parts of Zephyrian ships, destroying their propulsion systems while leaving the crew sections intact. Within an hour, The most feared fleet in the galaxy was floating helplessly in space. Jake Morrison received orders to take Admiral Vexther prisoner. As shuttles moved between the disabled ships, he reflected on what had just happened. The galaxy had seen only a tiny glimpse of human military power. The defense platforms were impressive, but they were not even humanity's main weapons. The real surprises were still hidden, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. Admiral Vexther sat in the detention cell aboard the UES Liberty, his massive frame barely fitting on the human-sized chair. His red scales had lost their shine, and his proud bearing was gone. The most feared military commander in the galaxy had been defeated in less than 2 hours. Commander Jake Morrison entered the cell with General Patricia Stone. The small human woman looked even smaller next to the giant Zephyrian. But Vexther no longer saw weakness when he looked at her. He saw something far more dangerous. "Where did you hide those weapons?" Vexther demanded. "Our intelligence networks monitor every star system. We would have detected construction of battle stations that large." General Stone sat down across from him. Her voice was calm and patient. "Admiral, what you saw today was not our military. Those were our defensive installations. We built them to protect our territory, not to attack others." Vexther's eyes widened. "Defensive installations? But they destroyed my entire fleet." "Your fleet attacked peaceful civilians," Jake said coldly. "Our defenses responded appropriately." The Zephyrian Admiral leaned forward. "If those were just defenses, then what is your actual military?" General Stone smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Would you like to see?" Light years away, the UES Vengeance received orders from Earth Command. The ship had been disguised as a simple exploration vessel for 20 years. Captain Nicole Parker had grown tired of pretending her ship was weak and harmless. "Drop the camouflage," she ordered. "Let them see what we really are." The Vengeance shimmered and changed. Holographic projectors shut down, revealing the ship's true form. Instead of a small research vessel, a kilometer-long warship appeared. Its hull was covered in weapons that made the defense platforms look primitive. Major Danny Brooks stood in the ship's intelligence center, surrounded by screens showing every major military installation in the galaxy. "Captain, we have confirmation from all reconnaissance teams. Every target is mapped and ready." Nicole nodded. "Begin the demonstration. But remember, we are not here to start a war. We are here to end one." The Vengeance engaged its faster-than-light combat systems. Technology that other species thought was impossible allowed the ship to attack targets across multiple star systems at the same time. It was not magic. It was simply physics that humanity understood better than anyone else. In the capital system of the Kryllian hegemony, space defense sensors detected an impossible reading. A human ship had appeared in orbit around their most heavily defended world. Admiral Krillax, the insectoid commander of the home fleet, stared at his tactical display in confusion. "How did they get past our sensor networks?" he demanded. His tactical officer clicked his mandibles nervously. "Sir, according to our instruments, they were never detected because they were never moving. The ship appears to have simply appeared. The human ship made no aggressive moves. It simply sat in orbit, scanning the Kryllian military installations with sensors more advanced than anything the insectoids possessed. Then it vanished as suddenly as it had arrived. Similar events happened throughout the galaxy. Human ships appeared in the heart of every major empire's territory. They did not attack. They did not threaten. They simply demonstrated that human technology could bypass any defense, penetrate any security, and reach any target. On the bridge of the Liberty, Jake Morrison received reports from across the galaxy. "Sir, we have confirmation. Human vessels have appeared in 17 different star systems. All major powers have been visited. General Stone turned to Admiral Vexter. For the past 30 years, while you were conquering worlds and building your empire, we were watching you. Every military exercise you conducted, every weapon you tested, every defense you built, we saw it all. The Zephyrian Admiral felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. True, cold fear. Impossible. Our security is absolute. Major Brooks appeared on the view screen from the Vengeance. Actually, Admiral, let me show you something. The screen filled with images of Zephyrian military facilities, secret bases that were supposed to be hidden from all alien eyes, weapons tests that had been conducted in isolated star systems. We have been recording your activities for decades. Vexter recognized every image. Training exercises he had personally commanded, weapon tests he had overseen, strategic meetings he had attended. The humans had been invisible observers at the highest levels of Zephyrian military planning. Dr. Helen Murphy joined the conversation from Earth. Her laboratory had been working on Project Prometheus since before first contact with alien species. Admiral, you should understand something about humanity. We have been preparing for interstellar warfare since before we knew aliens existed. She brought up historical records on the screen. Images of human conflicts throughout history. Ancient battles fought with swords and spears. More recent wars fought with guns and tanks. Other species reached the stars and became peaceful. They thought their technology made them safe. We reached the stars and kept preparing for war. The truth was more shocking than any weapon demonstration. While other species had grown comfortable with their power, humanity had never stopped innovating. Every year brought new weapons, new defenses, new ways to fight and win. Captain Steve Carter, monitoring from his observation post, reported the galactic response. Sir, we are receiving communications from every major empire. They are all requesting immediate diplomatic meetings. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. Every aggressive species in the galaxy now understood that humanity had been holding back. The wars they had fought, the conquests they had made, the fear they had inspired, all of it had happened because humans allowed it to happen. General Stone stood up and looked directly at Admiral Vexter. Your empire will release all conquered worlds immediately. Your fleet will be reduced to police vessels only, and you will never again threaten peaceful species. Vexter wanted to argue, to maintain some dignity, but he knew it was useless. The humans could have ended his empire at any time in the past 30 years. They had chosen not to, but that choice could be revoked. What if we refuse? He asked weakly. Nicole Parker's voice came over the communication system from the Vengeance. Admiral, we have weapons that can sterilize entire star systems. They are not experimental. They are operational and have been for 20 years. We have never used them because we hoped we would never need to. The message was clear. Humanity had the power to end any interstellar conflict within hours. They had chosen restraint, but restraint was a choice that could be changed. Jake Morrison felt no satisfaction in seeing the proud alien brought low. But he knew this moment was necessary. The galaxy needed to understand that the age of conquest was over. Humanity would make sure of that. For the first time in galactic history, the strongest military power belonged to the species that wanted to use it least. The news of humanity's demonstration spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In the capital city of the Krellian hegemony, Emperor Klexthar called an emergency meeting of his military council. The insectoid ruler had built his empire through careful planning and superior technology. Now he faced the terrifying reality that his secrets were not secret at all. Fleet Commander Susan Walsh materialized on the holographic projector in the yaw, center of the council chamber. Her calm human features appeared impossibly large to the insectoid officials gathered around the table. "Your Majesty," she said politely, "I believe you requested a diplomatic meeting." The Emperor's mandibles clicked nervously. "Commander Walsh, we demand an explanation. How long have human ships been violating our sovereign territory?" Susan smiled. Behind her, screens showed detailed recordings of Krellian military exercises from the past 15 years. Ships moving in formation, weapons being tested, new technologies being developed. All of it had been recorded by invisible human observers. "We have not violated anything, Your Majesty," she said. "We have simply been watching. For example, this recording shows your fleet conducting war games in the Tertius system 3 months ago. You were practicing invasion techniques against worlds similar to the Alteran colonies." Emperor Klexthar felt his compound eyes widen in shock. The Tertius system was supposed to be absolutely secure. No alien ships were permitted within 10 light years of the area. Impossible. Our sensors would have detected any foreign vessels. "Lieutenant." Commander Alex Turner appeared beside Susan on the hologram. His young face looked almost bored as he brought up technical specifications. "Your sensors are quite good, Your Majesty. Unfortunately, they are designed to detect ships using conventional technology. Human stealth systems operate on different principles." The technical data that appeared on the screens was beyond Krellian understanding. Humans had developed ways to bend space around their ships, making them completely invisible to normal sensors. They could observe from distances measured in kilometers, while remaining completely undetected. "Every war game you have conducted, every weapon you have tested, every strategic meeting you have held," Susan continued, "we have recordings of all of it. Would you like to see the footage from your private discussion with Admiral Zextar about conquering the peaceful garden worlds?" The Emperor's exoskeleton seemed to deflate. That meeting had taken place in his most secure bunker, protected by every defensive system the Krellian hegemony could devise. If humans had been listening to his private conversations, then nowhere was safe. On the other side of the galaxy, Emperor Zalthuk of the Vortanian Empire faced a similar revelation. The massive reptilian ruler had built his power through intimidation and brute force. His empire controlled 50 star systems through fear alone. Now he sat in his throne room, staring at recordings of his own military installations. Captain Maria Santos of the U.E.'s Asgardium stood before him, her small human form dwarfed by the enormous alien throne. But size no longer mattered. Everyone in the galaxy now understood that humans measured strength differently. "Your fortress world of Garin Prime," Maria said, gesturing to the screen beside her. "You believe it to be impregnable. 47,000 orbital defense platforms. Energy shields that can withstand planet-killer weapons. Underground bunkers that could survive a supernova." The screen showed detailed scans of every defensive system on Garin Prime. Not just external views, but internal schematics showing the exact placement of weapons, shield generators, and command centers. The humans had mapped every corridor, every room, every secret passage. "How?" Emperor Zalthuk growled, his voice like grinding stone. Maria's expression remained pleasant. "We have been curious about your defenses for some time. Our reconnaissance teams have been studying your fortress for 8 years. We know the location of every weapon, every weak point, every evacuation route. The implications were staggering. If humans could penetrate the most secure installation in the Vortanian Empire, then no military secret was safe. Every empire's defensive plans, every weapon system, every strategic advantage, all of it was known to humanity." Admiral Kevin Johnson appeared on communication screens throughout the galaxy simultaneously. The head of human fleet operations looked tired, as if he had been hoping to avoid this conversation. "To all galactic leaders currently receiving this message," he began, "I want to make something very clear." The hologram showed a star map of the galaxy. Thousands of star systems, hundreds of different species, dozens of empires and federations. It looked vast and complex. Then the display changed, showing the true scope of human military deployment. These red dots represent automated human defense systems, Admiral Johnson continued. They are fully operational and have been for 23 years. Each system is capable of sterilizing an entire star system within 6 hours. The red dots covered the galaxy like a rash. There were thousands of them, positioned at strategic points throughout space. No empire, no matter how large or powerful, was more than 2 jumps away from a human defense installation. Emperor Zalthok stared at the display in horror. "You have surrounded us all," he whispered. "No," Admiral Johnson corrected. "We have protected you all. These systems activate only in response to aggressive action against peaceful worlds. They are not weapons of conquest. They are guarantees of peace." The demonstration continued as human representatives revealed the true scope of their surveillance network. Every major empire discovered that their most sensitive military information was stored in human databases. Their tactical doctrines, their weapon specifications, their invasion plans, everything was known. But the most shocking revelation came when the humans showed footage from inside alien command centers. Not just external surveillance, but actual recordings from supposedly secure meeting rooms. The technology was incomprehensible to most species. Humans had developed ways to observe from distances measured in light years using quantum entanglement and dimensional manipulation. On the peaceful world of Centauri 4, the blue-skinned inhabitants watched news broadcasts with wonder and relief. For generations, they had lived in fear of aggressive neighbors. Their pacifist philosophy made them targets for any empire seeking easy conquests. Now they learned that they had been under human protection for decades. The Alterans, whose impending destruction had triggered the crisis, sent a delegation to Earth to express their gratitude. Ambassador Veltar, whose people communicated through musical tones, sang a harmony of appreciation that brought tears to human eyes. But for the galaxy's predator species, the new reality was terrifying. The Zephyrian Empire, once the most feared military force in known space, found itself requesting human protection from potential retaliation by their former victims. Dozens of worlds they had conquered were demanding independence, and without their military superiority, the Zephyrians had no way to maintain control. Admiral Vexter, still imprisoned aboard the Liberty, received a visit from Commander Morrison. The Zephyrian had aged years in the few days since his defeat. His proud bearing was completely gone, replaced by the hollow expression of someone who had seen his entire worldview destroyed. "My empire is finished," he said quietly. "Our enemies will tear us apart now that they know we are vulnerable." "Jake." Morrison sat down across from him. "That does not have to happen," he said. "Humanity offers protection to all species, including yours. But the age of conquest is over. Your empire can survive, but it must change." The terms were simple but revolutionary. All aggressive expansion would cease immediately. Conquered worlds would be given the choice of independence or voluntary membership in reorganized federations. Military forces would be reduced to levels necessary for defense only, and everything would be monitored by human observers to ensure compliance. For species that had built their identities around military conquest, the adjustment was traumatic. But for the vast majority of galactic civilization, the peaceful worlds, the trading federations, the scientific communities, the human revelation, brought an unprecedented era of security. The galaxy had learned that its strongest guardians had been watching silently for decades, waiting for the moment when their protection would be needed most. 6 months after the revelation, the galaxy looked very different. Admiral Jake Morrison, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, stood on the observation deck of the UES Harmony, humanity's new diplomatic flagship. Through the viewport, he could see representatives from over 200 species arriving for the first Galactic Peace Assembly. The location was symbolic. Instead of meeting on the homeworld of a powerful empire, the assembly was held at New Geneva Station, a human-built facility. In neutral space, the station itself demonstrated the new reality. Its construction had been completed in just 3 months, using human industrial technology that other species were only beginning to understand. General Patricia Stone, now bearing the title of Galactic Security Coordinator, reviewed the agenda. For the day's meetings, the transformation had been remarkable. Species that had been enemies for centuries were now working together under human oversight. The threat of human intervention had made cooperation more attractive than conflict. Admiral Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez reported from the communications station. We have confirmations from all major delegations. Even the former Zephyrian territories are sending representatives. Jake nodded with satisfaction. The Zephyrian Empire no longer existed as a military power, but its people had not been abandoned. Under human guidance, the former empire had restructured itself as the Zephyrian Federation, focusing on trade and cultural exchange instead of conquest. Admiral Vexther himself had become an unexpected advocate for the new order. His transformation from galactic conqueror to peace negotiator had shocked many observers. He now served as a mediator between former enemies, using his knowledge of military thinking to help prevent conflicts before they started. The irony is not lost on me, Vexther had told Jake during a recent conversation. I spent my life learning how to wage war. Now I use that knowledge to preserve peace. Captain Nicole Parker of the UES Vengeance reported in from the outer system. Her ship, no longer disguised, served as the station's primary protection. Not that anyone expected trouble. The demonstration 6 months ago had convinced even the most aggressive species that challenging humanity was pointless. All approaches are clear, Admiral, Nicole reported. The Krellian delegation is requesting permission to display their new cultural exchange program. It seems they want to share their art with other species instead of conquering them. The change in the Krellian hegemony had been dramatic. Emperor Klexthar had dissolved his military council and replaced it with a cultural development board. The insectoid species, it turned out, were gifted artists and musicians when they were not focused on warfare. Their transformation from military power to cultural center had surprised everyone, including themselves. Dr. Helen Murphy materialized on the view screen from her laboratory on Earth, the scientist who had developed many of humanity's secret weapons, now focused on peaceful applications of advanced technology. Admiral, we are ready to begin the technology sharing program. Are you certain about this? Jake considered the question carefully. Humanity's decision to share some of their advanced technology with other species had been controversial. Many human leaders worried about giving potential enemies the tools to challenge Earth's dominance. But Jake believed that trust had to start somewhere. Begin with the medical technologies, he decided. Disease and suffering do not respect species boundaries. If we can help save lives across the galaxy, we should. The technology sharing program was carefully controlled. Humans would provide advances in medicine, agriculture, and environmental protection. Military applications remained strictly classified, but even limited sharing represented a revolution in galactic development. Species that had struggled with basic problems for centuries now had access to solutions that could transform their worlds. Commander Steve Carter, now in charge of the monitoring network, provided his daily report. Sir, we have detected no military buildups anywhere in the galaxy. The reduction protocols are being followed by all major powers. Weapons production is down 70% across all monitored species. The reduction protocols had been humanity's first requirement for the new galactic order. Every empire had been required to reduce their military forces to levels appropriate for defense only. Weapons capable of destroying planets were dismantled under human supervision. Aggressive expansion fleets were converted to exploration vessels. Captain Maria Santos reported from the Vortanian system, where she oversaw the most dramatic transformation of all. Admiral, Emperor Zalthuk has requested permission to rename his empire. He wants to call it the Vortanian Peaceful Republic. Jake smiled at that. The massive reptilian emperor, who had once terrorized dozens of worlds, was now focused on building parks and hospitals. His fortress world of Garin Prime had been converted into a medical center serving the entire region. The underground bunkers that once housed weapons now contained research, laboratories working on cures for genetic diseases. The transformation had not been easy for any of the former military powers. Species that had defined themselves through conquest and dominance struggled to find new purposes. But humanity had been patient, offering guidance and support rather than punishment. The goal was not to humiliate former enemies, but to help them find better ways to live. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner interrupted from the intelligence center. Admiral, we have an interesting development. The Synthetic Collective is requesting permission to join the monitoring network. They want to help us keep watch for potential conflicts. The request from the artificial intelligences was significant. The collective had always been neutral in galactic affairs, but the human revelation had impressed them. They wanted to contribute to the maintenance of peace, offering their computational abilities to help analyze potential trouble spots. As the day's sessions began, Jake reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy that had once been divided into competing empires and fearful neutral zones was becoming something unprecedented. A true community of species working together for mutual benefit. The Alterans, whose near destruction had triggered the crisis, had become symbols of the new era. Their peaceful philosophy, once seen as weakness, was now recognized as wisdom. Worlds throughout the galaxy were establishing cultural exchange programs with the blue-skinned artists and philosophers. But perhaps the most important change was in humanity itself. For decades, Earth had hidden its strength, watching and waiting, while building weapons of unimaginable power. Now humans found themselves in the position they had never wanted, but always prepared for. Guardians of Galactic Peace. Admiral, Morrison received a message from Earth Command. President Sarah Williams, the first human leader to address the entire galaxy, was preparing to make an announcement that would shape the future of interstellar civilization. To all species, all worlds, all beings who call this galaxy home. The President began, her words transmitted to billions of listeners across thousands of light years. Humanity accepts the responsibility that our strength has given us. We will use our power not to rule, but to protect. Not to conquer, but to preserve. The galaxy has seen enough war. It is time for something better. The announcement detailed humanity's long-term vision. A galactic federation based on cooperation rather than domination. Protected by strength, but governed by wisdom. It would take generations to fully implement, but the foundation was already in place. As the first day of the Galactic Peace Assembly concluded, Jake Morrison looked out at the stars and felt something he had never experienced in his military career. Hope for a future without war. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the greatest victory was choosing not to fight, and that the strongest species was the one that used its power to protect rather than destroy. Humanity had revealed its true military might, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy a better way to live among the stars.